Avatar coming to California Adventure. Yep, it's officially announced today that Avatar will be coming to DCA. Look, we've been talking about this thing for about a year now, and we were thinking Disneyland. So for it to go in DCA is really surprising. We're going to talk about it, break it down up next on OG 55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG 55 Breaking News Edition. We got some crazy stuff. We're going to talk about it today. Before we do that, I want to introduce my brother, my fellow Italiano, Mr. Citrus George. Welcome back on the show, brother.
Thanks for having me on. And this was you and I were just talking on the phone last night, and I said, I don't know, something. I feel like something is like cooking up for this week, and lo and behold, here we are, a day after breaking news with this, something that we thought we would never imagine that was going to go in DCA. But before we get into all the details, if you would like to follow me on social media, you could do so on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also now find me on Instagram as the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Absolutely. And your dog doesn't sound too happy about this news.
He's
today,
not
so.
happy. He's taking up a bitch fit.
So funny. All right, let's dive right into this. This is just absolutely crazy. Now, I want to set the table a little bit, right? And the reason why, and I said in the intro of the show, the reason why I was pretty certain that this was not going into DCA for a few reasons, to kind of give you my mindset here, okay? Mm-hmm. Number one, look, I know people think that, California Adventure has sort of strayed away from the California theme, but the additions in this park recently, whether it be Cars Land, which is tied to Route 66 in California, Route 66 and car culture, while yes, technically it's Arizona, it still has that connection through car culture and Route 66, which I think is sufficient to justify its presence in DCA. Pixar Pier. I know a lot of people think, what does that have to do with California? Well, seaside piers have a lot to do with California. Just because you add Pixar on top of it doesn't make it any less California, in my opinion. Buena Vista Street, it's all about Los Angeles. Totally California. Even Avengers Campus, if you really look at the details in that land, a lot of it is themed to the kind of the Silicon Valley, tech campuses in up north. So yes, some of these connections are very loose, but they still kind of respected the park's California theme to some degree. Now it's a different angle they're going at with this California thing. It's more IP driven and kind of in that direction, but it's still California. So when we were speculating on Avatar coming to Disneyland Resort, I thought, okay, well, this is a high fantasy sort of franchise. It has to be going into Disneyland. It has to be. Well, it's not. I mean, this is really weird, okay? So this is strange. It says, breaking news, Avatar attraction will be located in DCA at Disneyland Resort. And this is WDWNT. It says here at the IAPA Expo, Disney announced that the Avatar experience coming to Disneyland Resort will be at DCA. Okay, it says here, the Walt Disney Company CEO Bob Iger first announced the upcoming Avatar experience during the February 8, 2023 earnings call. Later in the call, he implied the experience would be a version of Pandora, the World of Avatar at Animal Kingdom. In March, a D23 post said it would be, quote, as amazing, end quote, as Pandora, the World of Avatar. Disney stated during the Imagineering Lunch and Learn that the experience will be at DCA, but have not announced more information yet. Disney has been reluctant to call the experience a land or a ride. Initial thoughts, George. What are your thoughts on this? There's a lot to chew on here.
Definitely a lot. I even thought that if it wasn't going to go into Disneyland, that the potential third gate that would take the place of the Toy Story parking lot would have Avatar, like before DCA. Like I DCA was like not even on my roster of where Avatar would be because again, as you had just mentioned, it doesn't fit the overall culture of California, which now begs the question: is Disney looking even further beyond Avatar and possibly dropping the California in the title? Is it just going to be like an overall Disney adventure park?
It might be. Here's another angle they might go with, and they might keep the name Disney California Adventure, but might change the promotional marketing approach to this park. You know, California and Hollywood are pretty much synonymous. You know,
That's true.
Maybe they'll call it California Adventure, but the park will be more akin to a Hollywood Studios, and you know where you have these sort of IP experiences mixed in. It could be that. It's very, very interesting. The thing that's throwing me off though here is the D23 post said it would be as amazing as Pandora. Okay. So there's a few issues here that I have with this. A few, not issues, but question marks. So what do you do? Where do you put this thing? Well, you could do the Disneyland Forward approach, which would be putting it over there in the expansion pad across the street. I think it's the Symbol lot. Okay.
Right.
Definitely a Pandora, a version of that land. You could definitely fit that over there. That's definitely on the table. That's option number one. Option number two, which is actually friend of the channel from Ordinary Adventures, Peter, on Twitter said, you know, Grizzly Peak. It's the only land left really now with no major IP. Maybe they retheme Grizzly Peak to Pandora. That's option number two. Option number three is putting in the Hollywood land. So maybe taking one of the empty buildings and putting some sort of experience in one of those buildings. Now, number three would be the worst case scenario for me.
And honestly, I don't really. And if they were to do the option three, Disney would be kind of shooting themselves in the foot with that because if you're going to then compare the experience to Pandora at Animal Kingdom, and you're just going to put a single based attraction in an enclosed building with no outdoor kind, because that's what Pandora is. It's all like outdoor in nature,
Right.
in the lay of the land and what have you. So to kind of throw all that in a building,
Like an
I
exhibit
can't.
or something would be so
Yeah,
underwhelming. And you don't announce that at an earnings call.
no.
I mean, that's a very minor addition. To announce that at an earnings call, the first earnings call, by the way, since Iger came back the second time. Why would he do that if it
Yeah.
was something like that? So I don't think it's that, but it is a possibility. We can't completely discount that. We also have to remember that the Avengers store that was in that big building back there was recently evicted, and they built the permanent store over in Avengers Campus. Was that done because the Pandora is moving in? I don't know. I mean, we have to think about those things.
Yeah.
Now, Grizzly Peak, though, that's another one. I think Peter has an interesting point. You know, Disney has recently had a lot of success with these rethemes. You know, San Francisco, despite what all the naysayers say, has been very successful. I've been there several times now. That land or that little area is packed to the brim with people. The lines are out of control, a lot busier than it's ever been. Maybe Disney saw, hey, look, the retheme really worked over there. Why don't we bring that to Grizzly Peak? Would you be okay with that?
That would be the most sense. I mean, I enjoy Grizzly River Run, you know, but at the end of the day, it's a rapids style ride. You know, there's no really overall theme to it as far as like with anything of IP. If they were to retheme Grizzly, the only issue with them uh retheming Grizzly is that iconic rock work that used to be like the centerpiece of the original DCA 1.0.
Right.
And it's just so well known that they would have to actually kind of dismantle that whole entire structure of the mountain because a grizzly bear has no connection with Avatar. As far as the ride itself goes, I thought it would be kind of cool to have the Navi kind of hidden in the caves when you go through it in the rapids, or have them
Right.
standing on the rock work or what have you. I think
That'd be
that would
cool.
be kind of cool.
Well, that'd be very cool. And then Soarin', I mean, I don't know, that's one of their more popular attractions, but you can, in theory, replace that with Flight of Passage.
I don't. Which yes, that is true. I don't know how how the fans are going to take to that and that
Mm,
notion. And if
yeah,
Disney and DCA is already, I don't want to call it a half day park because it is not, but they need more in that park to stretch out a day, because that's what a lot of people do. They either start out early at DCA and hop over to Disneyland, or vice versa. You
right.
know, a lot of times when you just spend just one whole day at DCA, it's not worth the price of the admission of just the one base ticket. So they're going to have to add more in there to bulk up the day to say, hey, you know what? DCA is worth a 1 day experience to buy a park ticket for almost or a little over $200 at some days. So to then replace an existing land to just retheme it and reskin it, it's not really helping the notion of, okay, it's going to be a bigger day, a bigger expand, because all you're
Yeah.
doing is just replacing. I
You're
feel like with
replacing. Yeah.
Avatar, it would really seem like they would have to uh, add addition to it, make expand it. As far as for Hollywoodland goes, I still think that I'm banking on that's going to be more of an extension of Marvel. I
Yeah.
mean, they already have Rogers the Musical coming back into the Hyperion Theater. They got that whole backlot area that they can turn into something, and then it's a better transition to go from Buena Vista Street and then moving to the streets of like real world, because the Avengers does live in our world.
Right. They do.
Even though it's fictitious, but I mean, and one can argue so is Avatar in the sense because Jake Sully came from Earth and flew to Pandora, but the actual world of Pandora
Right.
is far beyond the reaches of Earth.
Well,
So
and
yeah, I would personally think that if they were smart enough that they would just expand DCA, which would be part of the Disneyland expansion, which very briefly I did mention on our video that we did with a good friend of the channel, Matthew Murr. Definitely check out that video of our rating of Iger 2.0 with him coming back to the company and everything. But I did mention briefly in that video that I'm doubling down that Avatar experience is going to be ready around 2028
interesting.
for the Olympics. So I mean, if they're already kind of making moves of where it's going and everything, I mean, maybe it'll come out maybe a year after the Olympics, but I feel like that's going to be the
Around that
time
time.
around the time that it'll be
Well,
ready.
it's interesting because it seems like there's more movement, it seems like, on this Pandora thing than the Avengers e-ticket. So I'll tell you right now, fam, if this thing is a significant expansion, let's just say they managed to put an actual Pandora in DCA for however they fit it, whether it's in the symbol lot or that they bulldoze a land here and they put Pandora there, whatever they do to fit this in DCA, if it's a version like they're claiming of the land in Animal Kingdom, even if it's a little smaller, we're not getting that Avengers e-ticket anytime soon, because you're not going to open something that significant and then follow it up a year later with the Avengers e-ticket. They don't do that. They usually space them out. So this Avengers e-ticket might be put on ice right now, considering the box office issues with Marvel right now and things like that. Avatar is a moneymaker for them.
Yeah.
I mean, right now compared to Marvel, I mean, Way of Water did amazing.
And,
So I could see them kind of fast tracking this and say, hey, the e-ticket over there in Marvel Land can kind of wait.
yeah. And honestly, now that I'm more so thinking about it and talking to you about it, I don't know still even how that would work, even if they were to replace Grizzly Peak, because that's adjacent to the Grand Californian.
Right.
So again,
Exactly.
that's not going to fit in well with the overall theming of that hotel, that you're walking into the wilderness of California. You're not coming out of the Grand Californian and entering Pandora.
Well, that would mess the whole thing up. Yeah, that would create a mess, because then what are you going to retheme the hotel? Because
Right.
you almost would have to, because the hotel is themed to the Redwood kind of California thing, and then you walk out and you got Pandora, or look out your window and it's Pandora. That wouldn't make much sense.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
this could get really messy and really
Mhm.
ugly if they don't think this through.
They
So,
really have to. I hope that they're not just rushing into this. I mean, if they're going to do it, they have to do it right. But I think they will, especially when this has James Cameron attached to it because he will
Yeah.
not do anything half-assed, especially when it comes to his. I mean, Avatar's his baby. I
Right.
mean, he spent years upon years even writing the script and waiting for the right amount of technology to be made to make these films.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe he wrote that in the '90s, I believe, or early 2000s. But um, yeah, so Grizzly Peak. Now that I'm thinking of it, no, that really wouldn't fit well. Hollywoodland, again, the only way that I could see this actually working is they would have to expand it. So I don't know if that's a little bit of Disney giving us an Easter egg that pretty much Disneyland Forward is pretty much
Moving
ready to
forward.
go, moving forward.
Well, yeah, and the other thing too is a lot of fans are really focusing on the word experience. I get it because it didn't say land, so, so we're gonna latch on to these words. But here's the thing with that fandom: we just saw in the last quarterly earnings call, the entire park division is called experiences now internally. I mean that's the new name of it. So experiences include lands and attractions. It's not just like when people hear experience, they think, oh, it's going to be some cheap thing thrown in the building in DCA, or it's going to be a Moana Journey of Water thing. Not necessarily. Now, I'm not saying that's not going to be. It could be. It absolutely could be. I seriously doubt it. But experiences also include lands and attractions.
Right. And that's where I'm now iffy now because we pretty much doubt this thing was going to go in DCA, and here it
That's
is.
what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying. And look, I have no problem eating crow. I'm
Yeah,
absolutely.
me too.
I was.
I thought for sure it was going into Disneyland
I
because, as I
just.
said, I loved your blue sky idea of like placing it right dead center in between Fantasyland and Tomorrowland because that is Avatar. It has the blend of fantasy and the way of technology and the futuristic side
Right.
to it. It was perfect.
It's a perfect blend from tomorrow to fantasy. I mean, it would work perfectly in that subs Autopia motorboat area. Obviously, you'd have to do something with the monorail track, which I think I've heard they've been wanting to touch that for a long time anyway. So I mean, that makes the most sense to me. DCA is a lot more of a stretch. I mean, and not only is it a stretch theme wise, it's also a stretch space wise. So
Mm-hmm.
it probably, I'm guessing, will be a Disneyland Forward thing and its own new land. It does seem, though, if they're adding Pandora, that they are moving in a more kind of like Disney Hollywood Studios or even Universal Hollywood kind of approach with this mix. It's a Hollywood park where you go and live your IP adventure. Basically, it looks like that might be the direction they're going with DCA right now.
Yep.
If this is actually going to be an actual land like that,
Because
so
if they expand out for Disneyland Forward, that would be more towards the direction of heading towards the Pixar Play
right,
Hotel, correct? Back that way
right,
beyond the pier. So I guess that would be the more rational decision because if it's kind of separated from the rest of the park, you can kind of keep your main focus on Pandora. Like nothing else is going to be in the way because the way that Animal Kingdom is designed opposite of DCA, everything's spread out. So when you go into Pandora at Animal Kingdom, you can only just focus on Pandora. It feels like you're in there.
right.
Where with DCA, everything is kind of, I don't want to say crunched, but it's all kind of together where you go, you're going to see those sight lines, and it's like, is that going to then take away the experience of feeling like you're actually on Pandora?
Correct. And here's another thing too that I want to throw at you and see what you think about it. Is it possible that they're using the word experience and they're being very vague with this because their plan is to use Disneyland Forward Land for this new Pandora, and they have to be more vague because they're not only are they dealing with the fans, but they're also dealing with the city. They don't want to
City,
show the city their entire hand. So this
correct.
is a safe way to sort of do that. Is that a possibility as well?
That definitely is a possibility because just to say Disney doesn't want to put all their eggs in one basket because we know the disaster that happened the first time they approached this notion to deal with the city of Anaheim. So if they were to say, "Oh yeah, we're getting a whole new section, a whole new land, a whole new area for DCA," and just to say hypothetically, if the Anaheim City Council were to say, you know what, we're not approving nothing, which obviously they got on their good graces this time around. Disney learned their lesson.
Right, right.
But just for the sake of saying it, if they said no, then guess what? They then promised us as the fans something now that they can't deliver.
Well, and that happened with Westcott because what happened was the city started getting involved and they were like, no, we don't want the big giant spaceship Earth. It was supposed to be a gold ball, but we were going to get that same thing out here. So maybe Disney is like, well, we don't want to freak the city out before it gets officially approved. If we say we're getting Pandora as a land, the city might go, oh, well, where are you going to put that, Disney? And because remember, Pandora has these massive rock work, the floating mountains and the whole thing. It's a sightline. It could be a sightline issue for the city. So Disney might not want to say, hey, we're doing this, for sure as a land, because like with Disneyland Forward, it could create an issue for them with the approval process. Let's get it approved first, and then we'll break the news. Basically, you know.
Basically. Now, let me ask you this, OG. Do you feel now that it's going into DCA, do you think it's going to be a carbon copy of Animal Kingdom's version, or do you think it's going to be a different rendition of Pandora?
I'm leaning more towards a different version of Pandora, just because obviously the size of the one over in Animal Kingdom is so huge. I don't think you can even do that in the Symbol lot. I could be wrong, but I believe it wouldn't be enough space. I think we'll get some version of Pandora that will be different than the one they have in Animal Kingdom. James Cameron likes to experiment and play. He's a creative, and I think he's going to push for maybe something from one of the newer movies. So who knows what we get? We might not even get the floating mountains. Might be something totally different, but it's interesting. I think it'll be something different though, probably.
So would the expansion pad specifically for DCA, would that only be enough room if they were to do Avatar? Then that would be it. It'd be a one and done.
I would think so. I would think it'd be one and done. I mean, because Pandora would probably take up most of that space, I think. I mean, it's, there's a lot of rock work and scenery in that experience. Even if you downsize it, you're still having to include all that stuff.
Right. See, and then that makes me wonder, is Disney going to want to utilize that whole space just for one land and then call it a day? See, this is where I'm going back and forth with it, because now they're putting it in DCA. It's like,
I don't know what they're going to do.
It's very hard to read.
It's extremely hard to read. I mean, personally, I wish they would just bulldoze Pixar Pier and build Pandora there. Keep the lagoon and just build all the beautiful rock work around it and do Pandora there. I think the pier is really the weakest part of that whole park. And you build Pandora there, it would in the heart of DCA. I mean, that'd be gorgeous. But they're not going to do that. There's no way they're going to do that.
Yeah.
But there's options, so we'll see. It'll either be, to kind of recap, it'll either be Disneyland Forward over there in the Symbol lot. It'll be some little exhibit over in a Hollywood Land building, or it'll be a Grizzly Peak retheme.
Yeah.
I think the least likely though is that exhibit over there in Hollywood Land. I really, really do. I just think that they're hyping it too much for it to be something like that. You don't announce that in an earnings call. That doesn't make any sense.
I do agree with you, but I actually think it's more far-fetched for them to do Grizzly Peak now that I thought about it, because of the Grand Cali.
The Grand Cali, yeah, and that's a big moneymaker for them. They don't want to, they don't want to fuck that up,
Yeah.
So,
but I would still hate for it to be in that building to literally subdue Avatar in a way where it's just like you're just going to throw it in a building where it's just going to be a facade and you have to actually walk into the building, unless if they clear out that whole entire building and they make it an indoor-outdoor experience. So even though you're entering a building, but it's going to make it seem like you are outdoors.
It could be. Yeah, it could be.
I mean, that would still fucking suck as hell. But
and that goes back to what they said in the D23 article when they said, quote unquote, will be as amazing. When you use language like that, it's funny. Everyone latches on to the word experience, but no one latches onto the as amazing as thing, right? Yeah. It's like very selective what they latch onto. They literally said in a D23 post, as amazing as what they have in Animal Kingdom. So yeah, putting it into this Hollywood Land stage the building, nothing you do in there is going to be as amazing as what you have in Animal Kingdom. It's impossible. It's absolutely impossible.
What about the backlot? Like if they were to just, I don't know how big the backlot is, just the backlot, not tying into Hollywood Land as far as like where the Hyperion Theater is, just that backlot section where the stage, where the Muppet Vision 3D used to be stage 17, where Mike and Sully to the Rescue is. could that section, just that section, that enclosed section, could that fit in Avatar?
You could probably do a small version of that, and that would also, if Disneyland Forward gets approved, they'll have the bus loading area behind that would add a few acres to this. That's a possibility too, George. And then that would make a little sense too, because now it's technically in Hollywood. So you're kind of doing the Universal Studios thing, right? Where it's like you have a bunch of Hollywood buildings and you turn the corner, you see Wizarding World. Same idea. Hollywood buildings, and then you turn the corner, you'll see Pandora. It's the same. It's a Universal Studios kind of style thing, you know, or even Hollywood Studios. You know, it's very Hollywood, 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 and then all of a sudden you're in Galaxy's Edge. So it might be something like that, and that would I think that if Disneyland Forward gets approved, you can build a decent sized little land there because you're going to have that bus area too. They're going to expand into that. That's actually a pretty solid option, and that might be where they're going with this, George.
I think out of everything,
kind of makes
kind of
sense.
where that's kind of where I would do it, because I mean, if they're going to utilize that whole expansion pad just for Pandora, depending on the scope of it, I don't know if that, I mean, unless that's the direction that Disney wants to go with it, but I mean, that backlot area is kind of all over the place. They took out the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. They took out Muppet Vision 3D. They have a lot of empty soundstage buildings back there. They have Mike and Sully to the Rescue, which, mind you, I do enjoy that ride. It is a really cool ride. But it's just sitting there all by itself when you have Pixar Pier on the other side of the park.
Right.
And it's like then you have this lonesome Pixar ride that's just sitting back there. I don't know. And as you had mentioned, that when Disneyland Forward gets greenlit, then yeah, they could expand out how they wanted to do the first time that was supposed to be for Avengers Campus.
Right.
But instead of it being Avengers Campus, it now becomes Pandora.
It might be that. It might be that. You might have the Hollywood Boulevard stretch, right? And then that little backlot area with the Muppet, with the PhilharMagic and the old Hollywood and Dine and Monsters would become Pandora. And that would actually add capacity to DCA, because you're more than likely going to, whatever Avatar ride they put in there will probably be better capacity. Probably more of a people eater than like Monsters. You know what I'm saying?
And chances are, usually with Disney lands, they usually like to have like 2 or 3 attractions. So I mean, the one in Animal Kingdom has 2. It has Flight of Passage and the Navi River Journey. So I'm for sure that they'll have like an e-ticket and maybe like a D-ticket attraction. So you're adding, yeah, as you had mentioned, they're adding more capacity for more popular lands. But I do like your notion that, yeah, I wonder if they're kind of putting the again the Avengers e-ticket on the back burner for Avatar.
I think they might be. For them to announce that at IAPA, but so far we haven't gotten any word on this Avengers e-ticket. It feels like, and especially with the Marvels really doing poorly in the box office, Marvel has had a hard run the past couple films, and some of the shows haven't really landed. They're going through a rough patch right now for sure. Or some people say shambles. Everyone loves that word now, by the way.
Shambles. It's a thing.
It's a thing. Everything is in fucking shambles now. But it's a great word though. I like to say it.
I love it too. And then since meeting you, I've got into the word hogwash.
Hogwash.
Yeah, hogwash.
Yeah, exactly. No, but it's, I think that Disney's looking at this going, okay, well, Avatar: Way of Water made what, like 2 billion plus at the box office worldwide,
with 3 more sequels along the way.
Right. And Marvel is kind of limping along right now. Let's push the Avatar thing right now. Because I'm telling you, if this is an actual version of Pandora, wherever they put it at DCA, you're not getting that Avengers e-ticket anytime soon, because it's going to take them at least 3 or 4 years to get Pandora up. And they always space this stuff out to maximize the gains. You don't want to like cannibalize your own stuff. So you're not going to open Pandora and the Avengers e-ticket. You're cannibalizing. Correct. So they're going to open Pandora, give it a few years, and then open the Avengers. So I think the Avengers e-ticket might be on the back burner right now. And it might be because of the state of the Marvel right now.
I agree with you. And honestly, at the state of how the Avatar films are going to be intertwined with the release of this, I'm just going to call it a land, because I feel like that's what it is. They can call it an experience all you want. I can't foresee it just being a one and done, put it in a soundstage building and then call it a day. I'm sorry, Cameron's not going to He's not going to
Well,
put up with that.
and again, like I said, Iger wouldn't announce something like that at a shareholder meeting. You don't announce things like that over there. That's not the appropriate venue for that. Number one, and number two, they literally say in a D23 posting, it's as amazing as Animal Kingdom. So it has to be something significant.
They're putting the money where their mouth is, and they better deliver.
Well, I'm telling you, and look, Iger has made PR mistakes in the past. Recently, we talked about it in that video with Matthew the other day, right? So if it does end up being some exhibit that they're going to throw into one of the backstage buildings back there in Hollywoodland, if it's just an exhibit showing the wonders of Avatar or whatever, I am telling you that is absolute PR malpractice on Iger's part. He completely oversold this thing, and also I will, if that's the case, Daddy Josh needs to go. That would, for me personally, everyone's got a threshold.
That's the nail in the coffin.
For me, that would be it. You know what? I'm done. You know, you're not green lighting the Avengers e-ticket, but this thing you're going to throw in there, I'm done. He needs to go. They need to put someone else in there. If that's what's going to go. If that's what's going to go in there.
Do you feel, kind of going on to the Avengers campus, which is a good idea, but do you think, now not counting the Pandy, because we all know, like, you know, that delayed it big time, but just in general, when Marvel was at its height with all the films that were slated to come out, where they had the sequels for Iron Man and Captain America Civil War and what have you, and Age of Ultron, that's like when the film franchise of Marvel was like at its most success.
Right.
Do you feel that they released the opening of Avengers Campus a little bit too late, at the back end of Infinity War and Endgame, when the hype started to come down, where now it just doesn't seem relevant too much? Because now when you have these now popular franchises like Avatar, that's going to get 3 more sequels off of a sequel that made over $2 billion over a film that was made 13 years ago to its original, the predecessor. Do you feel like that they're just going to keep on delaying Marvel because they're not they hit their peak?
It's interesting. Yeah. I mean, it's weird because I think right now Marvel is definitely in a downturn. So maybe short term they're prioritizing Avatar, but I still think Marvel as a brand is kind of evergreen. You know, Universal has had big success with it for years, even before the MCU. So I think Marvel as a brand, it's already stood the test of time. It's a 75 or 80-year-old franchise at this point.
Do you feel like that Universal has a better use of it because they're using the comic book franchise of it, where now they're kind of, Marvel is now kind of stuck in
the MCU.
In the MCU, so it's like,
that
how relevant is it? Because you're now, because when you think of Iron Man, you see Robert Downey Jr. You know, when you think of Captain America, you see Chris Evans. You know, when you see Thor, you see Chris Hemsworth. You know, so it's like you relate to those characters as their live action counterparts. So it's like, it makes me, you know, wonder. And then that's how I asked the question, I think with the Bad Thoughts podcast guys, when we were on with them, how relevant is it going to be to still keep Thanos around? And I get it. He's like the villain of all villains in the MCU and what have you.
Vader, basically.
Yeah. But it's like, but now with, not to like spoil anything, I don't even know how many more people are going to see the Marvels, but, you know, there was a sneak peek of X-Men coming to the MCU. So if that part of the franchise becomes success, possibly with the Fantastic Four, and Deadpool they have Galactus. Exactly, yeah, Deadpool 3, and then you're going to, if they add Galactus to the equation or what have you, could that essentially become the new e-ticket? So maybe that is why they're kind of delaying that and pushing Avatar up front, because, you know, maybe they don't want to really put something in there that'll be, they want something a little bit more in there that would be more timeless than anything.
Could be. Yeah, there's a lot of question marks. This, I'm telling you, and like I said, when I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll eat crow. And today I'm eating crow. I was really convinced it was going to Disneyland. Avatar is a high fan.
Serve me a dish too, because I'm right there with you. I thought
exactly
Disneyland.
No, exactly. Avatar is a high fantasy franchise. I just did not expect them to try to put that in DCA. I mean, it doesn't make sense to me, but hey, look, I'm an open-minded guy. We'll see how it turns out over there. I think they're going the Universal Studios Hollywood route. ride your favorite franchise, basically, is what the motto over there is. I mean, that's basically what this is going to be. It's Hollywood, and you're gonna experience your favorite movies.
Right. And do you feel like that if the Imagineers thought of putting Avatar in Disneyland with Galaxy's Edge already over there, that it would have cannibalized the park in that manner by
Well,
having big franchises?
it may be, yeah. I mean, it makes more sense in Disneyland, but I
Like
also
like in their mind, like in their
yeah,
mentality.
it's possible. It's possible. Yeah, very possible. I think that like right now, DCA needs something way more than Disneyland, but I'm just not sure Avatar is the right
Avatar.
something.
Yeah. Now that begs the question too that Scott Trowbridge's little video where it showed the lagoon and the motorboat area where the monorail, we all kind of connected a thought to say, hey, was that Avatar? Well, apparently that's not the case.
It's probably gonna
So
be Frozen.
I'm thinking it's definitely going to be in a Fantasyland
Yeah.
expansion for
And
sure.
that might be our answer. We're wondering why put Avatar over there and not over there in the motorboat lagoon. Well, maybe the motorboat lagoon area is safe for Frozen.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why.
And then as I believe it was our friend Candid Camper, part of the Bad Thoughts podcast, I believe he was the one, it's either him or Slimer, somebody mentioned it, where they would tie in the Matterhorn for the overall aesthetics to fit in with Frozen. Because all the
Right.
other parks are getting Frozen. Why the hell not Disneyland?
Well, yeah, exactly. And the R&D, the research and development, was already been done on those frozen lands because they've already been built. So it's a fairly inexpensive thing for them to bring it over here because a lot of the work, the legwork, has been done on those. So yeah, that's probably one of the big reasons why the Pandora is going on in DCA, because that area is already spoken for. So fans are just gonna have to let it go.
Let it go.
But George,
and
go
really
ahead.
quick, and just really quick, and I think if they were to do that with Frozen, I think you guys would get like a rendition of Frozen Ever After. That's in Epcot. You know, like more it's a family based type of attraction, and then I
Probably.
think also too, you guys really need another kind of family coaster. So I feel like that toboggan
Yeah.
uh, coaster that's over at Hong Kong that people are saying it's too short. Well, I mean, go on Seven Dwarfs Mine Train. It's not that much longer, folks. So, and
I
yet
know.
we still get 80-minute waits for that ride.
I
So, I
know.
mean, I
Like
think that would, I
they
think
build
that would
this
be the
a good route for them to go. We don't really have a lot of those family kind of coasters at DC. I mean, at Disneyland. It'd be nice to get something like that, especially
yeah,
in Fantasyland.
yeah. And then as
Yeah,
you mentioned, OG, it's like you have a problem with it, folks. In the words of Frozen, let it go.
let it go, man. Let it go. But it's like, yeah. I mean, and a lot of fans were complaining about that Frozen coaster being short or whatever. It's like, I'm just so sick. Like, I get it. Like, constructive criticism is all good. Look, we've been doing that here on this video, constructively criticizing. But it's like, when you're timing the attractions and that's what you're going to complain about, when that whole land the frozen land in Hong Kong looks gorgeous. I mean, it's something that like Tokyo would do. Okay. And you're going to sit there and go, it was just 85 seconds failure. It's like, come on, you guys, just
Yeah.
stop.
I mean, who really goes to a Disney park and looks at their watch to time everything? I mean, really.
Well, you gotta be a weirdo to do that. Absolutely. But
Yeah.
who knows? But George, I want to thank you so much for coming on. This episode of OG 55. Again, if you could let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media, sir.
Absolutely. You could find me on X, formerly known as Twitter, at Disney George. You could also now find me on Instagram as the Disney Italiano. And of course, you'll find me here on my home base at Orange Grove 55 with Citrus Corner, with all that sweet, juicy, but sometimes sticky Disney news and info.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, thank you for joining, and thank everybody at home for joining us today. Breaking news today: Pandora or Avatar or some sort of Avatar thing is coming to California Adventure. Disney confirmed it at the IAAPA convention today. So,
and this is a conversation we definitely want to hear from everyone.
Yeah.
Comment down below your thoughts. I don't care how far-fetched it is. I mean, it's already surpassed that point that they're putting it in DCA, so anything now is possible. It's no holds bar.
It's no hose baller. I'm not going to hold on to anything anymore. Like you said, George, like we thought for sure Disneyland, it's not, it's DCA. And the sky's the limit at this point. Like I even said, hey, bulldoze Pixar up here and put it there. You never fucking know, dude. Maybe they will.
Maybe they were listening to you when they heard your little rant of the looking beyond and back of the pier and seeing those sight lines. They're
Exactly.
like, let's put floating mountains there.
Boom. That would be, oh God, I would support that in a minute, man. In a minute. You have no idea. I've been wanting them to turn that whole Pixar Pier area into like a Disney Sea style harbor forever. But you know what you need for that though, George? Yeah. You gotta have some money.
You have to have some money.
Speaking of Lalisa, I want to congratulate Lalisa. Today she reached 1 billion streams on Spotify, the highest female in K-pop, I believe. So Lisa's over there crushing, making that money. So congrats to her.
There
But
you go.
thanks for coming on. Thank you all for watching. Comment down below with all your thoughts on Avatar coming to DCA. Thank you for watching OG55. And as always, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye-bye, everybody.